Hey everyone, it's Ysadora back again today, and I have been asked to talk about the altar of a witch. So, this is my own personal altar space, but obviously for everyone it's incredibly personal. So I'm going to give a bit of a rough idea today, but I'm sure you'll find that your own altar space works depending on whatever you find. Altars can be really flexible. For instance, if you're a green witch, you might want to set one up out in the garden. If you're a kitchen witch or a cottage witch, you might pop something in the kitchen or one of your main rooms. For me, it's in this main front healing room. I found it probably the easiest place for it, and I was really obsessed with the colour of the back wall. So they actually you can even have multiple ones. You can have ones that are indoors or outdoors depending on the time of season, or depending on like various bits and pieces of the time of year and things. They can also be temporary or complete or permanent. This one is completely a permanent altar, but you can actually set temporary ones if you like, or if you're in the broom closet, you can actually have one that like you just set up for a ritual and then pack down again. So the basics of one, generally they tend to have both space for a god and a goddess, as well as then a more general working space. The god and goddess space tends to be a space for like a god or goddess statue, or some people even just use candles to represent the god and goddess. Me, because I'm solely devoted to the Morrigan, I have just the one statue to the Morrigan. Doesn't mean that I don't believe in the god and goddess, it's just that she's my primary goddess. So other people also even like to make space to give offerings and things. On our outdoor altar, we actually do have space for offerings, but I don't on this one. So an altar generally includes a nice flat surface, somewhere that you can actually do most of your spell working, a cauldron or some kind of burning dish. I find that actually both works really well because I have like a bowl or a dish to do a lot of mixing and things like that, whereas my cauldron's a bit more traditional for holding other things. You can use one that's actually to heat things up, but I don't actually recommend boiling in a cauldron, especially in a small altar place. It tends to get a bit hectic. So other than that, you will generally need a wand. These are mostly used to direct energy as well as focus your energy. So this is my personal wand. Some people will then have also an athame, which is actually like a sacred knife that is used to magically cut things. I, however, haven't been chosen by an athame yet, even though I've made lots of others, so I don't have one. However, I do have a baleen, which is one of the other elements. Yes, this is a straight razor, but this is my baleen that I use because it's got a beautiful wooden handle and I actually really love it. The baleens are what we use to do all the actual physical cutting, so we don't actually like tarnish our metaphysical blade, but it's something of importance. Most of the time baleens are said to have white handles, although I love a wooden handle and I don't really work in white. Other than that, you will also probably need a besom, which is a broom, to sweep away energy. Some people have full-size ones, other people have little ones to just brush away the energy on the space that you're working on, whereas other people will actually have a full-size one and clean down everything with it. So that's something else. A chalice or some kind of pretty cup. This is for obviously any liquids that you're drinking, things like that. I actually have both a little jug and a little cup to use. And we've even got our handy moon water sitting in the background as well. So other than that, there can be a grimoire or book of shadows. I actually keep mine in my bedroom with me. It feels better for it to be closer than out here on my altar space. But you can bring it back and forth as you like, or you can actually dedicate a section on your altar to your grimoire or book of shadows. Some people also do a symbolism of the elements. Now, because we do various like rituals and bits and pieces, especially for the business, I definitely have symbols of the elements. So I tend to keep a stone for the earth, a feather for air, a shell for water, and the candle is up there for fire. And so that's the various element ones I use. Other people will just actually have like things written with the symbols of the elements, or have the little element stones. And then finally is, symbolism of God and Goddess. So I've got my statue of the Morrigan. Other people use a black and a white candle. Other people use a gold and a silver candle. It really is up to you and what you have on hand. I know especially statues of the various deities can get pretty expensive, so sometimes a candle's a better option. Other than that, bits and pieces kind of come and go. I like to decorate with a couple of bits and pieces, especially because I'm tuned in with the raven. I've got my raven skull that I have. I also keep my mortar and pestle here. I often keep herbs around, and even things such as my tarot cards and my pendulum and bits and pieces like that, as well as space to burn incense and things. So you do tend to find what you want on it. I generally accumulate a lot more crystals and bits and pieces on mine, as well as just little natural things. Sometimes people like to collect flowers and just bring them in for the day. So it really depends on what you feel like doing at any particular time. I know definitely for like an ocean witch, they would like gather a lot of shells and have that as part of their altar space. So you really shouldn't be afraid of just doing whatever feels the best for you when you're setting up an altar space. Lastly is probably a pentacle for protection. I don't personally have one on my altar because I actually do protection rituals around the house. So my protection area is actually the entire place. But other people will do just a small altar to be able to even cast the circle in and to basically protect their ritual space and stop anything from getting in or out, depending on what you're working on. So that's kind of the small way of going into what an altar is all about. There is other details, obviously, as far as utilising an altar for ritual purposes, but I shall cover that in another video, otherwise we are going to be here for a long time. So thank you for listening, and come and catch me at www.3marigna.com if you are interested in getting any more information or getting in contact, anything like that. And if you've got any questions, let me know. Thanks!